In this video, we're going to talk about phrases that few talk about, even though these phrases are some of the most common in the English language. So let's get started. We use there is and there are to say that something exists. They are generally used at the beginning of the sentence unless it's a question. The choice of whether to use is or are is determined by the noun that follows it. Use there is when the noun is singular. There is a cat. Use there are when the noun is plural. There are two cats. Let's look at some examples. Let's start with positive sentences. There is one table in the classroom. There are 3 chairs in the classroom. There is a dog in the backyard. There are many people at the bus stop. We also use there is with uncountable nouns. There is milk in the fridge. The fridge is the refrigerator. There is some sugar on the table. Sugar is uncountable. There is ice cream on your shirt. A rather common informal construction in English is the phrase, there are a lot of. We use there are when you're talking about a lot of something that is countable. There are a lot of people in this elevator. And we use there is a lot of with uncountables. There's a lot of homework. Now, if you notice, I used a contraction, there is, I said theirs. And contractions are very common with these two constructions. There's a good song on the radio. There's only one chocolate left in the box. You cannot, however, contract there are. There are 9 plants in the house. There are only 5 days until my birthday. Now let's look at the negative form and see how we use this construction. Interestingly, we almost always use these two constructions with contractions. There is not a horse in the field becomes there isn't a horse in the field. There are not 8 children in the school. This is not very natural in English. We say there aren't 8 children in school. Instead of there is not a tree in the garden, we say there isn't a tree in the garden. Again, this is informal speech. There are not 2 elephants in the zoo. There aren't 2 elephants in the zoo. Now, even more common than the contraction is to combine it with the word any. And it's very common in these negative constructions. When we want to indicate that zero quantity, that nothing of something exists, we use there aren't any. There aren't any people at the party. There aren't any trees on my street. Now we can use isn't in this same sense with uncountable nouns. There isn't any water in the swimming pool. There isn't any sugar in my coffee. Now, before we turn to contractions, I'd like to remind you to subscribe to my channel and tell your friends about it. Oh, and if you have any questions or comments, write them below. Let's look at questions, the question form of there is and there are. To form a question, we place is or are in front of there. In other words, we invert the order. And we use any with plural questions or those which use uncountable nouns. We also use there is or are in short answers. Look at these examples. Is there a dog in the supermarket? No, there isn't. Are there any dogs in the park? Yes, there are. Is there a security guard in the shop? Yes, there is. Is there any ice cream in the freezer? Yes, there is. Finally, we use are there with questions beginning with how many to find out the number of objects that exist. This is a very common sentence pattern in English, so you want to know about it and be able to use it. How many dogs are there in the park? How many students are there in your class? How many countries are there in South America? I hope that this video has been helpful. Below are links for more practice. See you next Monday.